Record participants. Who has worked on SOHCAHTOA? Have you heard that before? Sine, cosine, tangent. Tell me who has done this before in geometry class. Anybody else? Or okay, maybe I should say who has not seen sine, cosine, tangent? Okay, you did it last year. Okay, so this is probably a mostly review, but you know, I don't know about this year. Let's see, somebody just came in. But now my son is a senior and who is now moving on to college next year. When he applied for college, he did not have to submit his SAT score because of pandemic. But I'm guessing that the SAT is going to be back. ACT and SAT and all those assessments will be back. And so you will probably be taking those. And I have seen so many SOHCAHTOA problems in SAT problems. So I think, hope this is not a waste of your time, but hopefully a good review to you. And we will take a little bit further. I don't know if you did a law of sine, law of cosine, but we will even go as far as law of sine, law of cosine, special 45 right triangle, 30-60 triangle. I don't know if that rings a bell, but we will go through those type of questions. Okay. Yeah, maybe some of you might have forgotten, right? The first thing that I want to talk about is cross multiplication. Probably you've heard it before, right? Have you heard cross multiplication? Now, this is a cross multiplication. Okay? If you have A over B equals C over D, in other words, if you have two fractions equal to each other at the beginning, then you can cross multiply A and D, B and C, and they are equal to each other. A times D is equal to B times C. Now, let me show you. This is not really a proof, but for example, give me like two fractions that are equal. Let's say 2/3. Can somebody give me fraction that is equal to 2/3, but with a different numbers? 4/6. Yeah. Is a 4/6 equal to 2/3? Now, two fractions are equal, right? They are equal to each other. Now, is 2 times 6, is 2 times 6, is it equal to 3 times 4? Are they equal to each other? And it is, isn't it? 12 equals 12. Now, was that coincidence? Let's try another one. How about 1/5? 1/5, what's equivalent fraction to 1/5? Oh, 5/25. If you reduce 5/25, it's 1/5, isn't it? Now, is 5 times 5 equal to 1 times 25? It is, isn't it? 25 equals 25. Or 2, if it's 2/10, is 2 times 5 equal to 1 times 10? Yeah, it is, right? They're equal. Again, this is not a proof. It's just a case studies of the cross multiplication, but it works, right? And So we are going to use that cross multiplication to solve it. Okay, I know your teacher might have taught you in different ways, but I will just teach you. And if you know the method that works, you use that. But let's just keep the cross multiplication as an option for us to the tool to use for solving some of the problems later on. Okay. You guys okay? Can we move on? And if you need time to write this down, please let me know. So here is what we usually call SOHCAHTOA. You might recall your teacher teaching you SOHCAHTOA, right? I think some of you recognize that already. But I will tell you what it is. Why don't you guys write this down? Okay, so let me give you a minute to copy this, all of this down. Okay, this is, well, I guess this part. Okay. And then I will explain what this means. First of all, SOHCAHTOA is just a way for you to remember what sine function, sine, cosine, tangent function is. And SOH is coming from this SOH. That's what SOHCAHTOA. Coming from the beginning of each letter, sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, as you write this down, I want you to just listen to my explanation here. When you work on a sine, cosine, tangent problem, the first step for you to work on any SOHCAHTOA problem is that you label all three sides of a triangle. You have to do that. Now, when you do this more often, you will be able to start to kind of sort of make a mental note. But for now, you're going to write this down. Now, first, theta, this funny looking symbol, this zero with a line in the middle. This was called theta. It's a Greek letter, and it's just a way of saying it's an X, okay? It's an angle measurement. Okay, theta is used for the place for angle measurement, okay? So sine of a theta means sine of angle measurement, certain angle measurement equals opposite of a hypotenuse. In other words, sine function is defined as opposite and hypotenuse, the ratio of this opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, what it means is that if you have, for example, certain angle measurement, let's say like a 30 degrees, the ratio, if you have a certain angle measurement, you have a specific ratio to that angle measurement. For example, if you have a 30-degree right triangle, it is always 1:2 ratio, no matter what. If you have a bigger 30-degree right triangle, if this is a 5, this will be 10. It's always 1:2 ratio, or it's double half relationship. So certain angle measurements do have a set ratio to it. Does that make sense to you? Okay. If it is 15 degrees, then you've got different ratio. And I don't know the ratio, certain ratio, but and I used to have a big chart when I was in high school taking geometry. I had a big chart of what the ratio is for a certain degree, 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees. And you've got the ratio for sine, cosine, and tangent. But nowadays we are just using a calculator, right? And so we don't need to use the chart. So sine, now the first step, I'm sorry, I'm just going all over the places, but so sine is opposite over hypotenuse, as you can see. But the first step is that you need to label the right triangle. Now, in each of the problem, you will always have the focus angle. In this case, let's say this right here, theta. Theta is right there. Then the opposite is going to be this side because it is opposite to the theta. That's why it's called the opposite. Hypotenuse is always the opposite side of this 90-degree angles. That's always a hypotenuse. Now, if you identify opposite and hypotenuse, then the last side is going to be adjacent. Okay? That means that, let's say, theta is over here, then where do you think is the opposite? Opposite is going to be on the bottom here. So opposite changes depending on where the theta is, okay? This one was opposite, but if the theta is over here, opposite is on the bottom. Hypotenuse is always across from 90 degree. So this is a hypotenuse. And then adjacent is whatever the third side is. So adjacent. Opposite. Hypotenuse. It's a funny word there. Okay. Does that make sense? So for example, let's say here's the question. And find the following. We are not solving for anything. We're just going to identify the ratio, okay? Sine of theta. So to do this problem, you're going to label, okay? I want you to label all three sides, opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. I want you to do that. So please copy this down and label each side of the right triangle. So again, the opposite will be the opposite side of the theta. So this is a 15 represents opposite. You get that? And then the hypotenuse is across from the 90 degrees. So that's hypotenuse. And then 8 meter, this side has to be adjacent, okay? And this problem, I am only asking you to just set up the ratio, okay? Sine of theta equals what? What over what? I'm going to give me the fraction. Now, right here, so this is where the SOHCAHTOA comes in handy, okay? And sine of a theta is defined as opposite over hypotenuse, isn't it? So it will be opposite. What is opposite? Opposite is a 15 meter, isn't it? So it's 15 over hypotenuse, and hypotenuse is 17. So it's 15 over 17. We're just practicing identifying the ratio. It's 15 to 17. Okay. How about cosine? Can you try that? Cosine of theta is, so right here, it's adjacent over hypotenuse. So it will be adjacent. What's adjacent? 8 over hypotenuse, 17. Okay. So cosine deals with adjacent and hypotenuse ratio. And the tangent refers to, uses opposite over adjacent. So what would that be? It will be 15 over 8. Yeah, does that make sense so far? Okay. Does anybody need more time to write down any part of this notes up to this point? Anyone? All you have to say is just wait, need more time. Okay, I hope you feel comfortable. You don't need to tell me openly. You can just send me a direct message to me. Okay, so that other people don't need to see it. Okay, so let's actually solve a problem. Okay, so here it is. I've got two problems as an example. This is still an example, and then we'll do the assignment. Okay. So first question. The first step for any of the solving problem is that you label the triangle. Okay. So let's do this together first, because I know some of you have forgotten about this, right? So first, we need to identify the focus angle, which is right here. So this is the theta, and we do know the angle measurement, which is 32 degrees. Okay, we need to know the angle measurement in order to be able to solve it. Okay, so the theta is 32 degrees. So let's label. Which side is the opposite? Opposite is the opposite side of from theta, right? So this side is opposite because it is opposite from theta, or the focus angle. Where is the hypotenuse? Hypotenuse is, it's this side, isn't it? It's a 7 centimeter. This is a hypotenuse. So I'm just going to write HYP. That leaves X to be adjacent. Okay. So we are solving for adjacent. So this is the first step. This is step 1. Label 3 sides. Okay. Next step is to set up an equation, SOHCAHTOA. Now we have to choose one of, well, we have to choose the right one. One of SOHCAHTOA, sine, cosine, or tangent. Now, what do you think this problem is? Is this a sine problem, cosine problem, or tangent problem? Which one do you think it is? And how do you know that? Thank you, Sophia. Anybody else? This is cosine problem. Now, how do you know that, right? Maybe some of you are wondering. Very good. Yeah. Now, how do you know that? For those who are still thinking about this, This is a cosine problem because, first of all, do you notice that there is nothing on an opposite? It's a blank, right? But it is dealing with hypotenuse, which is 7 centimeter, and we need to know the adjacent. In other words, the opposite is basically out of the picture, right? So you need to find the combination that uses hypotenuse and adjacent. Now, if you go back to SOHCAHTOA right here, which one uses hypotenuse and adjacent? And it's only the cosine isn't, right? The ones that uses adjacent and hypotenuse, it has to be cosine. Sine, it uses the opposite and hypotenuse. And then tangent uses the opposite and adjacent, right? But only cosine uses adjacent and hypotenuse. So this has to be cosine problem. So let's set it up. Cosine of theta, which is angle measurement, 32, is equal to, it's cosine, so ka, right? It's A to CAH. So it will be adjacent x over 7. Okay, and then we're going to solve for x. Now, how do you solve it? Now, your teacher might have taught you in geometry different ways, but essentially, we're talking about the same thing. In this class, I want you to at least try to use a cross multiplication. First, I'm going to write cosine of 32 as a fraction. So cosine of 32 over 1, okay? And then we're going to use a cross multiplication. Now, cross multiplication that we talked about at the beginning, it says 1 times x, right? We've got two fractions equal to each other, so we can use the cross multiplication, right? So 1 times x, which is just x, 1x, isn't it? X equals cosine of 32 times 7. And so what is x? X equals cosine of 32 times 7. Okay? So now you take out your calculator. You do need a calculator for this class, guys. Okay. Now, if you do not have to have a graphing calculator, but you can still use a cell phone. However, you know the calculator that come with your cell phone? This is a very confusing, to say the least. So I would highly recommend that you should buy a calculator. You don't need a graphing calculator, but maybe a scientific calculator. If you do not want to buy a calculator, there are lots of a good scientific calculator app in your, so you can download that for free. So if you go to the App Store, hang on a second, my wife is calling me. もしもし。今、クラス。うん。あ、そう。じゃあ明日買うよ。うん。OK。うん。2つ。はいはい。All right. Sorry about that, guys. So you can download. By the way, I was speaking Japanese to my wife, if you're wondering. You can download, just type in a scientific calculator, and you can just have a pretty good scientific calculator. I can teach you some Japanese. words later. So you do that. Like, so here's the one that I downloaded, calculator 84. I don't know if you can see it. This looks pretty good. It's basically like just like a TI calculator. It's the same outline, same format. And I don't know how legal this is, but somebody came up with it. I guess it's pretty. The layout is pretty much identical to TI graphing calculator. So this is a good one to use. Okay. So now I want you to find the cosine button, which is right here for me. So you go cosine of 32. Now this one puts angle measurement in parentheses automatically. So you do have to close the parentheses, cosine of 32, and then times that by 7. And I get 5.9. Did anybody get different number by any chance? You could possibly get different answer depending on the setting of your calculator. 5.9 is the right answer. So let's write down 5.9 centimeter. Did anybody get 5.8 by any chance? Okay, Francisco, you got 5.8, right? Now, 5.8 is the wrong answer. Now, why did you get the 5.8 instead of 5.9? And that is, if you go to a calculator and go to a mode, so I don't know if you're using different calculator, but if you go to a mode or some kind of a setting, just look at the third line from the top. You see that radian and degree. Now, in angle measurement, there are actually two different angle measurement. Just like metric and system and the way that we use pounds and inches, there are different measurements for angles. One is called a radian, and the other one is called degree. Degree needs to be highlighted. So if you go to radian, you get wrong answer. But if you set up as a degree and highlight it, you should get 5.9. So please change the rad and DEG. So make sure that it's on degree measurement, okay, instead of radian measurement. Okay, I know I'm talking a lot. I hate to do that. But let's finish one more example. This is important. We need to do 2 examples. So let's do this one here. And then we'll do the assignment, okay? I'm going to label the triangle first, and then I'm going to set up an equation. Let's go up to that point. So again, I'll start with the opposite, okay? Always start with the opposite. Then hypotenuse, and then adjacent. Now, once you wrote down opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, and adjacent, then I'm going to pick the one that will use these 2 sides, 5 and x. Okay. So I'm going to get started on this. For the sake of the time, we don't have a lot of time. So the focus angle, or the theta, is right here, 64 degrees. Always one angle measurement is always provided, okay? And in this case, it's 64. That means opposite is going to be this side. That's opposite. Opposite is a 5 meter. Hypotenuse is always the side across from this 90 degree. Okay, so that's a hypotenuse. And there is nothing on a hypotenuse, isn't it? That means the hypotenuse is basically out of the picture. Then this is adjacent. So we need to find the combination that uses opposite and adjacent. Which one is that? Because there's nothing on a hypotenuse. So you can't use that. Okay, you have to use the opposite and adjacent. And in this case, opposite and adjacent is tangent, isn't it? Yeah, you recognizing that? Tangent is opposite of adjacent. Okay, so tangent of 64 equals its opposite over adjacent, wasn't it? Okay, so it is 5 over x. And we're going to write tangent of 64 as tangent of 64 of 1. And we're going to cross multiply. Now, the reason why I needed to go over 2 problems is, do you see the main difference between the last problem and this problem? Besides cosine and tangent, they are different. But another main difference is that the last problem, x, the unknown, was in numerator, right? And if you cross multiply, it's really easy because you got 1 times x is just x. You just right away have x equals, which is very convenient, right? But for this one, x is in the denominator. But let's go through this, okay? So we're going to cross multiply. Tangent of 64 times x is equal to 1 times 5, which is, well, let's just write down 1 times 5, which is 5. So we got to do just one little bit of a work here. We are solving for x, right? In other words, we need to get rid of this tangent of 64. How do we get rid of tangent of 64? So that we have x equals. Well, it's tangent of 64 times x, right? So in order to get rid of that, let's divide both sides by tangent of 64. That means tangent of 64 and tangent of 64 cancels out. So we've got x equals 5 divided by tangent of 64, whatever that is. Does that make sense, guys? So let's do 5 divided by tangent of 64. I get 2.4 meter. The point that I want to make, and I hope you can remember, is if unknown is on the top, like the first example, then you cross multiply and you just the answer right away. It's cosine of 32 times 7. You basically multiply. But if x is in the bottom denominator, then you will end up dividing like a 5 divided by tangent of 64 in this case. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Now for the remainder of the class, we've got about 30 minutes left. And it's enough of a time, I think, to finish this. Let's get rid of a couple of questions here. Let's just do, has anybody started? Okay, you know what? I did not publish this assignment in the modules. So let me do that right quickly. Wait a second, we are on unit 4. Okay. So I just published the first assignment in Canvas, and we're going to work on those 6 problems right now, okay? Now, for those who are new to my class, the way to turn the assignment in, yeah, let's just do a focus on those 6 problems. So A, B, C, so right here, A, B, and C, and then let's do G, H, and I. Okay, those 6 problems. And that would be enough. We'll use other problems as warm-up questions later. And what you do is you do the assignment in your notes, so you can just continue working on it in your notes. And you're going to take a picture of it, and then you're going to submit in Canvas. And then I will grade your assignment. Okay, so that's how it goes for this class. No, what is it? Edgenuity assignment. I am not using any part of Edgenuity again. And so all the assignments are given during the second half of the class, and we'll do the assignment together. And then by the end of the class time, you should be able to finish it. Okay. All right, so let's begin. In your assignment, please write down HW 4.1 or homework 4.1. Okay, and let's begin. You guys ready? Again, the first step, well, I don't know if you can still see SOHCAHTOA in your notes. Probably you can flip through easily, right? But let's write it down to SOHCAH and then TOA. The SOHCAHTOA, I like to write SOHCAHTOA in this way. It's a little bit better for me in terms of what's in the numerator and what's in denominator, right? But you need to be able to spell out SOHCAHTOA correctly, otherwise this does not help you at all, right? So let's begin the first problem. The first step is to label, right? The focus angle is right here, 76. So this is opposite. Hypotenuse is across from 90 degrees, so that's hypotenuse. This is adjacent, and there's nothing on adjacent, so I'm just going to cross that off. Which one uses an opposite and a hypotenuse? It's a sign problem, isn't it? You guys follow me? Yeah. Don't do that. I need a room to write this down here. So A. So this is a sign problem. Sine of always the angle measurement. Next, 76 is equal to opposite x over 16. Does that make sense? Okay. And you notice that x is in the numerator on the top. So this one is going to be easier at least, I think. So let's cross multiply. If you cross multiply, 1 times x is just x, right? So x, you get x equals right away. X equals sine of 76 times 16. So you multiply that. What do you get? Sine of 76 times, again, please don't forget to close the parentheses. Some calculators puts the parentheses automatically around the angle measurement. So make sure that you close that, and then times 16. I get 15.5. Let's write down the unit too. What is it? Centimeter. So you get that? Yeah. Let's do B. You do this by yourself this time. So label the triangle. Opposite, adjacent, no, hypotenuse, adjacent. And which function is it? Is it sine, cosine, or tangent for B? Okay, so I'm gonna get started. So I'm gonna label. Focus angle is 30 right here. So opposite is right here. And there's nothing on opposite. So that's basically out. Hypotenuse is across from 90 degrees. So this is hypotenuse. That means this x has to be adjacent. Very good. This is a cosine problem, isn't it? Okay. So let's set it up. Cosine of 30 degrees equals cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So it is adjacent, which is x over 15. Again, x is on the top, isn't it? So lucky us, right? It's easy to figure it out. So if you cross multiply, it's just, you get x equals right away. It's cosine of 30 times 15, right? And what do you get? What did you get? Does everybody have a good working calculator? Yeah. If you need help, if you want my help of choosing the right one for your cell phone, or you can also use the internet to Desmos. I don't know if you have seen Desmos. You can use that too, and I can show that to you. Maybe not right now, but tomorrow. And you should get 12.99. So 13, 13.0 or 12.99. What's the unit? Centimeter again. Okay. Let's work on C. Again, you get X on the top. But that's okay. Let's work on C. And opposite. Hypotenuse. There's nothing on the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is out. And adjacent. So which combination uses adjacent, opposite, opposite, adjacent? That's tangent, isn't it? This has to be tangent problem. Okay. Tangent of 64 equals, what is it? It's opposite. What is opposite? Opposite is x, isn't it? Again, x is on the top. X over 4.8. Okay. So then you cross multiply. You just immediately have x equals tangent of 64 times 4.8. You just multiply. It's 9.8. What's the unit? Meter. Okay, why are all the x's on the top, isn't it? We need to do the problem that has x in denominator. GHI. Why are they all in? Okay, we need to do the ones that are. Have you already done G, H, and I? Has anybody done that already? Okay. They're all x in the numerator, isn't it? Okay. All right, that's good. No, you don't need to erase that or do any more. I'm just looking for the ones that has an x in the denominator. We should have done D, E, and F. Okay, if you have already done G and H and I, don't worry about this. But I want to do D, E, and F actually. So again, if you have done G, H, and I, you're done, okay? Or maybe you can go along with me. But can we do D, E, and F? Because I'm looking for the one that has X in the denominator. We need to do that. G, H, and I, they're all in the numerator too, which is not good. So let's do D, okay? Running out of room here. So I'm gonna do D right here. So again, let's label. Again, just do 6 problems, okay? If you have done G, H, and I, you're good. You're done, okay? But if you're willing to go along with me, do a little bit more. Okay, we're doing D, E, and F. And we've done A, B, C. And we're going to do D, E, and F. But again, if you've done 6 problems, you've done the fair share for today. But I wanted to do the ones that have X in denominator, which is going to be this one. So again, it's opposite. Hypotenuse, which is across from 90 degrees. And then adjacent has to be the last one. Okay. And this is, which one is it? There's nothing on opposite. So opposite is out. This is cosine problem, isn't it? Are you thinking about cosine? It's adjacent and the hypotenuse. This is adjacent and the hypotenuse combination, and that's cosine right here. This has to be cosine problem. So it's cosine. Let's change the color here. Cosine of, what is it? 42 equals adjacent, which is a 5, over hypotenuse, which is x. Now x is in the denominator, right? But we are going to use the same procedure of cross multiply, okay? So I'm going to cross multiply this pair first because it's got x in it. So cosine of 42 times x is equal to 1 times 5, which is 5. Okay. And then since we want to solve for x, right? You want to have x equals a number. So we need to get rid of this cosine of 42. And how do we do that? We're going to divide both sides by cosine of 42. That cancels out. So x equals 5 over cosine of 42, which is 6.7. 6.7. So that's D. Okay. Let's just keep going. Maybe some of you are already done, but if you are still going along with me, let's keep, okay. Let's finish this up. So E, I'm gonna work on right here. I don't know if you can see the problem. So I'm gonna let you work on it, okay? So 1 minute. Okay, you should be working on E. It's kind of mess now. Hope you can follow this. Which function is that for E? It's been about a minute. So I'm gonna get started on this. Erase. clear around the problem. So again, the focus problem angle is right here. Theta is 34. That means opposite is always opposite of theta. It's called opposite. That's opposite. Hypotenuse is always across the side across from 90 degree. That's a hypotenuse. That means this is adjacent. And there's nothing on a hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is out. So it's an opposite adjacent combination, which is it's tangent problem. So this has to be tangent problem. Okay. So let's find a room to set up a equation here. So this will be tangent of 34 equals opposite over adjacent 8. Just keeps moving here. 8 over x adjacent. Again, x is in the denominator, but we know how to deal with that. Cross multiply. Tangent of 34 times x equals 1 times 8, which is just 8. So you do have to divide, okay? So do you see the difference between the problem when x is in the numerator and x is in the denominator, right? The first 3 problems that we worked on, all the x's are on the top, wasn't it, right? So you basically multiply, right? But when x is in the denominator, you have to divide both sides. So you've got x equals 8 divided by tangent of 34. Which is 11 point, let's do 9. And what's the unit here? Meter. Okay. Okay, ready for the last problem? Let's do F. Okay, right here. Can you guys see okay? Let's make it a little bigger. So I'm going to set it up, write down the problem, set up an equation, and label the first, and then set it up. It's tangent again. It's okay. And I want to solve for x. Hey, Leila, no problem. I'm glad you made it. We are almost done with assignment. We are working on assignment right now, and this is the last problem. And it's a kind of a review topic, SOHCAHTOA. I don't know if you remember that from geometry, and that's what we are working on right now. And the assignment is already posted in Canvas. We are not using Edgenuity in this class. So assignment is always given every day from Canvas. And we usually work on the assignment in class. And we usually finish the assignment in class as well. So, if you need to review this material, I will be posting the video recording later today. So you will be able to watch that. The video link will be given to you also in Canvas modules. It's at the very top. Okay. All right, let's finish this up for F. Okay, so let's label. Angle is 74 right there. So opposite is always the opposite side of the angle that you're looking at. So opposite is that. Hypotenuse is always the side across from 90 degree. So that's a hypotenuse. That leaves the last side to be adjacent. It has to be, okay? There is nothing on a hypotenuse. There's no labeling on a hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is out. So we are talking about opposite and adjacent combination. And opposite and adjacent is, again, it is tangent problem. This has to be tangent problem. So let's set it up. I think I'm gonna set up right here. So tangent of angle measurement, always angle. Tangent of 74 equals, what is it? Opposite, 80 over adjacent, which is x, okay? And we are going to cross multiply. So we've got tangent of 74 times x equals 1 times 80, which is just 80. Since we want to solve for x, we need to divide both sides by tangent of 74. That cancels out. Tangent of 74. So x equals 80 divided by tangent of 74. And I get, what did you guys get? 22.9 centimeter. I know it's a mess. I created a big mess right here, but I hope you were able to follow that. For those who came in late, you can talk to me. We still have about 10 minutes left, but now for those who are new to the class, especially, you need to take a picture of this work, your work, not the screen, but your notebook. And then you need to submit that to the assignment that I posted in modules, unit 4. If you have any questions about how to turn the assignments in or any part of the lesson, please remain in the class and then you can talk to me. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of the day, okay? And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, guys. Let's see, let me stop recording first.